Awesome. I appreciate that. This shows we've been around for like 2.5. It's going to be 3 years before we know it. How long have you been with the show, Heather?
Well,
You
about
start
as
in
long as
March?
my kid is old, so a year and a half.
Oh, yeah. Heather was the first co-host back in the day.
Right. Yeah.
So, all right. So, Joe, tell me a little bit about your background, how you ended up with Icon Technologies.
Well, we originally started as healthcare IT specialists. It was actually something that happened many years back where my parents had passed away within 2 weeks of each other due to poor health. And at that time, we didn't have health information exchange like we do now. And in '08, they had started passing where we get electronic medical records where information can be transitioned from one place to another within a keystroke as compared to waiting for a fax to come in or until somebody answers a clinic. So we got on board with different various clinics. And at that time, President Obama signed an act where they would actually give us incentives to bring in electronic health records into the different clinics. So with that, we kind of merged our IT technical team to that, to where now it's called Healthcare Informatics. And from then on, we just started growing with the local doctors, which we've had for 10 plus years on a month-to-month basis.
So, if I understand this right, the motivation for you to get involved in the health side was because of your parents?
Yes. Yeah, I lost them, and I was an only child. So, you can imagine how the impact that was. So I had always wanted to own a business. It was originally just going to be, since I was first part of the communications teams, which we did a lot of law enforcement, Code 3 and so forth. In 2003, we were part of the Homeland Security Texas Law 3, where they had merged like Border Patrol, DPS, and all the different counties all together into one frequency, an emergency frequency. So with that, my parents were pretty much ill. And then when they pretty much passed away, I started going in more into the technical background, healthcare informatics. And that's when I thought that would be kind of cool. Sort of like the way we did the Texas Law 3 many years back, we would be part of the Health Information Exchange Initiative.
And help me understand, when you became an entrepreneur, when did that happen?
That was in 2010. That was after I was pretty much getting my feet wet with that. And it's one of those where you just take a leap of faith. It's like, getting a really good salary, probably the best salary I had ever had, onto jumping into the unknown. But by that time, I'd already established some doctors as a side gig, because I would be working my day shift, then every night, be working for them, doing different jobs for them, pretty much a gig hustle. And then
That's a good conversation, though, about the leap of faith, because I think we've all done that. You're used to making some money, somebody's paying you, then you got to go and you're going to start your own business. And it's usually a dip. It's almost never like, I started my own business and I doubled what I was making at the previous place. It's, usually, that's why it's a leap of faith. You're jumping, you just don't know how deep the canyon is.
So,
and then you have to climb out.
I call it the starvation period.
Yes.
Like, how long is the starvation period in your industry? When I got started in real estate, it was like 6 months. But for some, it's way longer. Like, if you're looking at commercial real estate, it's like 18.
Period.
Yeah, because you have to starve a little bit and you got to scrabble for your work. So what did your starvation period look like? You went from side gig to full leap of faith to now, you're in Ulta stores, you've expanded out, you're obviously growing.
Yes.
What was your starvation period before you started seeing that traction?
Well, it was, with us, it was years. We pretty much...
You said years?
Yes.
With an S?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't feel bad now.
Yeah. So, when I first started, I was pretty much a solopreneur. It was always just me, a one-man show doing everything. I did my own invoicing, used Microsoft Word and Excel and so forth.
So I call that
Learned it that way.
self-unemployed.
Yeah. So I would sleep in my office every time, be checking in with everybody, doing all the calls, sales calls, showing up and doing all of the work. So it took me about a good 2 years to kind of gain traction, to get my name out there. So.
And tell me what gaining that traction looked and felt like for you.
Well, nowadays, probably getting a first $500 a month contract was like the biggest thing, ever. Just the fact that I guess it feels good when a doctor trusts you At that time, there were just doctors that I would get. And, and then I felt like I was making a change, the technology that we were bringing in, it was at its infancy. But I was just pretty excited. I was thinking I was doing the world a good on that. And there was regular technical people. Then there was, of course, the Geek Squad and all these people at that time. And, I was just one of those that was coming up. I was under the radar, which was my advantage. So they didn't really take me seriously.
Did you think of, even though they maybe didn't take you seriously and you were trying to find your way, were you aware at that time that you had to find your differentiator? What made you different than the Geek Squads and the bigger companies? Was that on your radar already? Like, hey, I need to have a niche or I have to be a little different?
Yes, I would read a lot of books on that. And I would read pretty much Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Art of the Deal, and so forth. And I learned that I had to be more than just a person, I had to be a brand. And that's what I would say, what would make us different. So I would always analyze my competition. They have deeper pockets, but what can I do? Well, I'm just a one person, so I could offer free service, quick response times, faster than them, personalized service. Instead of talking to a machine over here, talking to somebody in New York, and so forth. So that's what I would offer. So when they would tell me, they're charging me this and you're charging me this, I go, well, what I can't save you on money, I can save you in service and headaches and frustrations. I'll be there. I can actually definitely look at it, research, and so forth, have an answer for you within the end of the day as compared to putting you on the back burner because, you know how it is with big corporations. You just become a number. So I established a relationship. So that's when I started telling everybody, I'm not here to make money. I'm here to build relationships. So your success is my success. So at the end, we grow together.
And that's something that Mark talks about all the time, about building a relationship. You solidify that relationship with a prospect, they become clients, and then they stay with you typically longer than if it's based solely on a transaction.
Yes, sir.
So you had like your 2-year starvation period. Then you started seeing some traction. You got your first $500 a month contract. From getting a little bit of traction to feeling like, oh my gosh, it's actually working. I made it. How long was that?
Well, that's when life just kicks in. A lot of other things just start happening on a personal level. Kids start growing up. I was divorced at that time. So, I had to handle personal and handle business at the same time. So, of course, the biggest thing that a lot of people don't realize when I talk to future entrepreneurs is that you have to calculate in your equation life. People forget to calculate life on there. So that was a very hard thing that I had to learn to juggle throughout that time. So, and that was just another couple of years. So really the time I really gained traction was about 8 years. So by the time I learned how to balance the life and the business, and of course, it's grueling to be a business owner. It's a 24/7 job. If a doctor is on call, I'm on call. And if I got 5 doctors on call, so I'm on call the whole week. So it was all more of a learning experience. I didn't have any business background. I didn't have any training formally. I would just talk to people and ask them, and I learned that talking to a doctor is the best because in every corner there's a doctor. So they got the most competition. So that's how I would learn. And they would say, well, this is what I do, Joe, and this is what they do, and so forth. So I just learned to make myself unique.
What about profitability? How long until you're profitable running the whole business, or were you profitable right away?
Well, I would make money, but I always like that Amazon quote, they make money, but they don't turn a profit, and so forth. In the beginning, that's pretty much the way we were. So we're just always rolling over. But that's where, thankfully, I had a lot of faith. I was a person of faith. That actually helped me get over that and learn that money is not something that we can own. It's money that's just a tool. It's just always flowing. That's when I learned the value of a dollar. The dollar's a tool. It's not where I'm learning and holding it. It's just something that's flowing. So,
did you pay yourself a salary from the beginning? You were one of the entrepreneurs that are like, hey, whatever's left over is mine?
No, whatever's left over, I've always invested. Up to this day, I
no,
still
but something
do that,
had to pay the mortgage and the food.
Well,
How'd you pay for that?
the mortgage was actually paid for initially. I kind of got everything all together, and then later on, when I got my divorce, they stayed with the house, and then I just stayed at a very small apartment, and then I got a small, very, very, very small office. It was like about probably about half of this room. That's all I was, and a desk and a phone. But the main thing I invested in was servers. I would always get, how they say aftermarket. That's what I would get. But we'd always say it was, pretty much a hand-me-down, an old server. I would start putting it together. So the machines started being my helpers. Like I would take a call. I created my own audio system. Now everybody has it, like a Ring Central. But at that time, it was new. So I would train it to take a call, screen it, and then I would get it on my cell phone. Now it was called an asterisk server, but now everybody has one. But that's pretty much how I learned. AI is now the big term, but I would always say the machines. The machines help me.
Well, how are you
So-
paying your bills though? Your personal bills? Were you
My
taking
personal-
enough money out of the business to pay all that?
Yeah, I would.
Okay.
I would use it like I was.
ATM machine.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Just
I
take what
learned.
you
I
need.
learned to have the business as my bank. I'll borrow against myself. So if I'll borrow $100, I'll pay myself $120 back to that bank. So that's what I learned. I'm very afraid of getting in debt. So that's what I would do. So any little bit I would earn, I would just put it in there, sort of like a bucket, and I just borrow against myself.
And that's the thing. And the reason I ask is I feel like when people get into business, like they don't think about that. But so many people who have made it have gotten scraped by, barely made any money. But you don't talk about that. And then all of a sudden, 8-9 years later, you're doing really well.
It's part of the reason why some entrepreneurs are really successful. It's not the only way to be successful, but if you had to really struggle and you lived in a tiny little office for a while or a little apartment and you didn't know where your next meal was going to come from and all that stuff, and then you come out of that, what happens is you never want to go back there. And so your drive is up here compared to people that, they leave corporate, they get some underwriting, they get some money partners, they start a business. They're not as hungry. I'm not saying they can't be successful, but that drive usually isn't there.
See, I see the drive is true, but you're scrappy. You have to make
Yeah,
a
it's
little bit
re-
of money
re-
go a really
resourceful.
long way, resourceful.
Resourcefulness, right.
And you've got to find creative ways to do things. And those are generally the people that do make it.
Yeah, and Joe can go into any big corporation that's trying to hire him, and somebody might be trying to pull the wool over their eyes and try to sell him a bunch of extra cabling and all that stuff, and he'll be like, no, wait a second, there's no way. All we need to do is this, because he knows it, because he built his business from the ground up, and he helped his clients grow from the bottom up when he had to be resourceful. Mm-hmm. Now, you're a business coach. I know there's a philosophy that if you're going to start a business, you should pay yourself first. Even if you have no idea how you're going to pay yourself, that's going to be a motivator to go and make enough money. Because the entrepreneurs that start a business that don't put themselves on their own payroll, what happens is they spend years trying to make enough money to pay themselves.
And that's the thing. It's not so much pay yourself first when you don't have the money. It's when you get money, make sure to pay yourself something. So I usually use like the profit first mentality. Mike Michaelwitz, he says put 1% at bare minimum aside, and then pay your taxes, pay yourself, then pay your taxes, and anything that's left over, pay your operations, because your expenses tend to expand. So if you pay yourself last, you're going to get what's left over. And a lot of the times businesses eat money. There's a reason there's so many B2B businesses. I mean, how many phone calls have y'all all gotten since you registered your business and you pick up the phone and they say, hello, is this the owner? Mm-hmm. So many. I'm like, you can't even be bothered to just look at my name.
See,
But,
that's
like,
why I
it's
have
true.
Leslie. I have my assistant handle all my phones.
The owner of what?
Yeah.
Sorry.
How do you
Much
do
busy.
it, Mark? You put all you put yourself on salary at your company?
Profitability. So we do a draw based on profitability. That's where we're at right now. So if we're $2,500 after everything's paid, and we are also building up the war chest for the business, then we'll pay ourselves that amount of money. But to Heather's point, there's always the next 360 camera or the next extra VA to do the extra thing. You got to be careful of that. You have to make sure that you're scrappy. You know,
So
the small office is half the size.
Yeah.
That's pretty scrappy.
So I used to do what you do and draws and all that stuff, but for the past 10 years, I put myself at a salary. That's it.
You've been in
Now-
business for 30 years. How
But wait
it
a
took
second.
you 20 years to
It
get
took me
there.
20 years. So I'm telling you, shorten the time frame. I'm doing you a favor. I'm not even charging you a coaching fee. So, but you know what's funny is that I make about the same amount of money that I used to, but now I also, for the past 10 years, pay myself a base salary that almost didn't make an impact on the bottom line.
What does that mean? You
That
lost
means
me.
that I can pay myself, and then I still make the same amount of profit that I used to make.
What do you do with the profit in your company?
I take it as a draw.
Oh, okay. So you're double paying
Well,
yourself.
that's the
Ooh, I
thing.
love
And you
that.
know what? His W-2 salary, tax deductible.
That's correct.
So they pull Social Security, they pull Medicaid, everything off the salary W-2. You pay yourself, so then you'd have a W-2 salary for when you want to buy a house or do that. But then you also get the profit draw. I mean, it's great, but it also ensures that you build in enough gross profit margin, your real income, to pay yourself a salary when your business scales. Because if you're operating at like a 30% gross profit, after all expenses, how are you going to be able to pay yourself six figures as an owner when your business scales
Joe,
up? You won't.
how are you paying yourself?
I'm paying myself, well, the same thing. As a basic, now as a W-2.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. But as a basic technician.
Right.
So,
And how many clients do you have now?
right now,
Approximately. Sorry,
approximately.
he didn't know I was going to pop quiz him.
No. Yeah. Well, in the Rio Grande Valley, we have probably about 20 that are month to month with us. In Corpus Christi, we have about 2, but then we have our corporate clients, which are like the Ultas, the Zales, and so forth. That one would be in Corpus Christi, probably about another 12 of those. San Antonio, we're steadily growing slowly, so we've just gotten a couple of more people on board with our phone services. Here, small businesses. So in small businesses that are locally owned, I've only got 2, but I've got the majority of the stores here now.
So what does that jump look like for you from going from one-on-one, you get to know the doctors, they hire you as IT, to jumping into larger name brand stores, contracts like Ulta and Zales? Because that's a very different client set.
Well, to them, it's more of, it's just our consistency and our professionalism. Well, as you can tell, we have a dress code where all of our team members first have to dress professional. We hire pretty much veterans. I do have veterans that work with me, so a lot of discipline and always get, because they know how to get the job done. They all work.
Absolutely. We talk
So-
about that on the show. It's very true. Do you train them, by the way?
Yes. We train them. A lot of them come, like one of my head ones is a former Marine. He worked in intelligence and so forth. So he's pretty much got the discipline. I just train him on what we do and how we get everything done. We created our own work order system. So the corporate entities, they don't really see us, but they see our accomplishments, how we beat the time, because we're very competitive. It's just like a team. To me, it's like a game sometimes. You know, like we're in competition. We speak professional in a professional manner, because a lot of other IT people are more laid back. We're more disciplined, driven, and well, like you said, a little more. We're more scrappy because we came from nothing to.
Well, how do
this.
you go for client acquisition? The big companies, what's your strategy there versus
Originally, I was a subcontractor to a subcontractor to a subcontractor.
Right.
So that's how it happened, and they just pretty much saw that we were the ones that were doing everything. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So yeah.
Do you have agreements, or did you have agreements with the people who you were subbing under? And did they have an agreement with the people they were subbing under that you couldn't go to the clients directly?
Well, no, that's why I always am very I have a very sensitive radar because it goes back to what I told you. I was so small that I wasn't
Right.
considered a threat. So,
By the way,
that's
do
what-
you consider ex-cops who were in the Air Force veterans too? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
That's my
Yes.
We're like a double veteran.
Yeah.
Retired first responder
Yeah.
and a veteran. Thank you.
Yeah, and
My
they
father
cancel
was a
each other
veteran of
out,
the
so
Air
you
Force,
wouldn't be
so,
you wouldn't
yeah.
get the job done because they each cancel each other out. No, but we do talk about that on the show, and we've had a lot of people in your seat that were veterans, that were ex-military, and they start their own business, and they didn't have a lot of experience, but wow, man, that grit, that stick-to-itiveness, that seriousness that you learn about getting the job done is such a differentiator compared to civilians like me that just think, it's going to be easy. I'm going to start my own business. I know everything. I've read 6 books. I'm going to go do it. And then all of a sudden reality hits us in the face.
Yeah.
So I see that. So
You just recounted my progression from leaving the police department or retiring from the police department to becoming an entrepreneur. Oh, I know all this. I got this. Ain't gonna be a problem.
yeah, but-
Oh my gosh.
Oh, yeah.
That's quite the struggle.
And funny story. I'm sorry to interrupt. I wanted to kind of bring up what you brought up on that one. There were some times that were very hard. I remember in Thanksgiving, I always say this story that we had a slow time, but I always give all my staff turkeys. I remember giving everybody a check, turkeys, and that Thanksgiving, I didn't have anything. I was just alone in my apartment, barely had enough. But a company is only as good as its team members. I always put my team members first, but sometimes we have to sacrifice as the business owners. And a lot of people don't realize nowadays that as a business owner, it's like, oh, I'm going to be the one who's going to get rich. But sometimes we got to give to our team members because they also help us.
There's an old
stay afloat.
African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go with others. And the whole idea is, in order to go far, to grow a business, you need team, you need people, you need vendors that are all on board.
Well,
Now, if
speaking
you-
of that, so tell us who's your mentor, who's helping you along, who are you, like you need peers, right? And then you need people that are farther than you already. Who are those people for you?
Well, they are some business owners that I still work with and some doctors. Now, some of them have retired, but I just do sit and talk to them. One of them was my former boss at a place because I used to do police lights and communications for police officers. So he was one that kind of would always teach me, Joe, you need to always have your own inventory. That's the advantage because everybody else can order. So that's why we have a warehouse full of inventory. You know, other people would just be telling me, you know, just to be very thrifty, you know, buy cheap, sell high, but not too high. You know, you need to, and never be in debt. So that's pretty much it. Those are the people that I still talk to up to this day. And I still meet with them like probably once a week or once every 2 weeks, 15 minutes just to talk, see how everything's going. You know, we always make a joke. We're just solving the world's problems at that moment.
yeah,
and we
one
just
pan
go.
dulce at a time, right?
And a coffee, yeah.
And what about accountability?
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
who
like
keeps you
accounts?
accountable?
Oh,
You know, like
my
who's
account?
on you to make sure, not accounting like money wise, but who's like, hey Joe, did you meet your goals? How many calls did you make? How many of this? You know, who do you have somebody like that?
Yes, she's the manager of Icon Technologies and my MJE stuff, but she kind of follows up with me. It's my wife who does all the logistics and the billing and the invoicing. So sometimes we just get a little bit. I always say I'm the one who gets the accounts and makes the money, but she kind of makes sure I dot the
Operations.
I's, cross the T's. Do we invoice? Sometimes I used to. Before I got married to her, she would see there was like things I wasn't even doing or charging. You know, 'cause we were just so busy at that time.
Yeah, as entrepreneurs, sometimes we're, dotting the T's and crossing the I's, and we think we're doing a good job, and we're not.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're
That's the
staying
thing.
busy.
We do more damage than good in that
I
one.
feel like a lot of people that aren't entrepreneurs look at business people and they're like, oh man, they must be so good with numbers and money. And, you know, they're just running this business. And from the inside, I have found that to be less true. Most entrepreneurs are I'm going to bring in the money. I'm going to make the sales. I'm going to build the relationships, but managing the money, crossing the T's, dotting the I's.
Well, you get to
Not
see
quite as
behind the
much.
kitchen door with entrepreneurs, right? Because I'm sure
Well,
they
she's
use you
describing me, right?
yeah, I'm sure they use
100%.
you partly as a business therapist, and then they tell you like, "Oh my God,
Well,
I don't
that's
know
the
if I
thing.
should have started my own business. I'm barely making any money. Maybe I should have stayed where I was."
No, there's a lot of joy in being wrong.
So much joy.
There really is,
Yeah.
because it's like as a teenager, they've got it all figured out, right? They know everything. I've got a 17-year-old, right? They've got everything figured out at that age.
I'm glad you said that quieter because she didn't hear you.
Yeah.
Even though she's
Even
going to
though
edit
she's
the show.
editing this.
See
Yeah.
my body posture kind of hunkered down a little bit. No, but it's life is awesome, and that you realize that how little you know. It's just a lot of fun. But on the accountability side, it's super important that people outside your organization, somebody who's independent, can call you on your ignorance and going in the wrong direction, or your fail to take action. And my wife, she's my operations person. She's fantastic. I mean, love it. And then I've got a bookkeeper, right? So my financials are taken care of as well. It's good to have checks and balances there. But it's like when, like, Heather's my business coach, for example, and she can call me on my bullshit. If she's like, okay, well, Mark, this is where you where you said you're going, but you're not getting there, then what's going on there, right? Somebody from the outside pointing in to say, hey, she's a grown woman who talks with business owners and is calling you on your stuff. So that's just something every entrepreneur should have that. We should have some kind of accountability on the outside, whether it's a good friend who's been in business forever, or if you can get both, that's even better. But those are important.
That's a good one. What I do is I do a lot of QA. I go visit all my clients on a month-to-month basis. I sit down and just talk. How's it going? How's everything going? Kind of do a QA. It's something that I brought over from the healthcare IT. QA everything. They would always check the quality assurance. So that's what I would do.
I'm glad you said that. I thought questions and answers.
So,
Quality assurance, yeah, I knew you were.
yeah. Okay. Yeah. So.
Move the mic a little closer.
Yeah.
You want to be as like,
So, what are
So,
some of
yeah.
the big innovations in your company that have come from that practice?
Well, of the practice of the QA or
Yeah,
just our
The
technology?
QA.
Well, what we've seen is I actually talk with people and I ask them, it's just more knowledge, more, what are we doing wrong? It's pretty much the same thing. It's just something as simple. Instead of set it and forget it, we let them know because there's always room for improvement. Around the corner, there's another guy that's probably hungrier than I was, coming in, and I want to make sure ours is better. We've been here about 14 years already. How can we improve? Icon has become now a brand. We have brands, and we want them to grow alongside us. So with that, the innovation has come. Well, the phones are very hard because they're calling somebody else that created my phone company. So now we have Icon Communications, which are voice over IP. I have the resources, so I can go ahead and do that. So we kind of grew out of that. And so now we have that. We get to be a one-stop shop for some of the clinics and some of the small businesses, and we grow alongside them. So I have my own email servers because our competitors have become more expensive, getting 365, they charge by the email, by the storage. So we have it, and we just give them ours or set it alongside with the existing month-to-month. Now, we are HIPAA security certified. We run PCI compliance scans all the time because of the increase of ransomware and malware everywhere. So we have our own security team, which goes back to some of my military personnel that have worked with Homeland Security and abroad in their branch. So we bring their expertise plus with our medical background to work together. So we try to innovate and set ourselves apart from our competitors.
And that's great to know about the email servers because we host 450 websites of the 1,100 websites that Sharkmatic has built. One of the things we stopped doing is offering email hosting. We used to host it on the same servers, but because of not HIPAA stuff, but because of ransomware and that kind of stuff, we now just send everybody to Google Workspace or Microsoft 365 or something similar. But HIPAA comes up. I've done work for some hospital groups, and we're like, not my circus, not my monkeys. But that's good to know about that because it's become so ridiculously important.
Yes.
More so than just, my emails go to spam. It's more than that. You know, there's a lot of security issues, and so many people depend on it. I was talking to a roofing person that you and I know, and the reason they came to us was not because of marketing and web and all that. They said, we send out emails, and it seems like every fifth or seventh email goes to somebody's spam or doesn't get delivered, and we've missed out on bids and jobs. $20,000-$30,000 jobs where the bid didn't get there. They selected somebody else, and then when he runs into them, they're like, "Yeah, we never got your proposal."
What did you do to fix that?
We haven't yet.
That's an honest answer.
Send them a bid.
No. That they haven't engaged us yet. So we're engaged to
you
get
can
engaged.
solve that
We
problem.
can solve it, yes, but they haven't given us the engagement check to get started.
How do you solve that problem?
Well,
big
it's what Joe's talking. Yeah,
issue.
it's putting their emails on a completely different server that's a managed MX records, Microsoft, or I mean, Mail Exchange
It's like
records.
Cloudflare? Cloudflare or
It
whatever?
could be. I mean, look, it's not. Microsoft does it. Google does it. Rackspace used to do it. They probably do it. Icon does it.
Yeah, it's an MX record we're talking about. You need to, it's like a verification. You know, you do a DKIM, then there's also a bounce back verification and so forth. There's so many verifications that you need to do. It's not like back then where you just have an SMTP server and it just
Right.
tells it out.
That's what we used to do all the
So,
time.
yeah.
But then you get on these blacklists, and then your email doesn't go out, and then you can't receive emails. It's a big mess, you know. And it's become that way because of all these hackers and spammers and all this other stuff and ransomware.
Just can't
So-
have nice things.
Yeah, exactly.
Can't have nice things. But to change the subject, because I don't know any about what we're talking about. So you've grown from a single man show to where you are today. What's
Yes.
the ultimate goal? What are you shooting for?
That's a good one. You know, we actually talk about that, and we're just along for the ride right now. You know, but I am we're still shooting to grow a little bit more, just innovate. I know that now this whole AI boom. You know, I just got on board some technicians that have programming capabilities and so forth. So we're working a little bit with that. Just to see whatever we're gonna just go along for the ride with technology and try to innovate alongside with it and just keep growing. One thing that my late father used to have in his workbench, because he was an electronics specialist, go forward or get left behind. So, you know, that's the one thing we just try to keep up with. Cause
Yeah, you're
if
growing or
not
you're dying.
evolving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way,
exactly.
that's another thing that a coach can help you with, because there has to be an end game. Because if without an end game, you just expire. You know what I mean? I don't mean pass away.
Everybody
you become
has an end
irrelevant,
game 'cause
whatever.
you do
Yeah.
expire.
Right. So one, coach can call you out on your BS like Heather does with Mark, but they can also say, hey, look, where do you want to be 5 years from now? Where do you want to be 10 years from now? It's an important thing to think about, but without the experience of having taken a company through its sales or through its life, you need somebody else who has that experience that can help guide you there. You know, it's something I think about, you know, even though I've been in business now for 130 years, like Mark says. What's the end game? Do I sell it? Do I keep it? Do I pass it on to my kids who don't care about it? Do I sell it to my employees?
Well, and growth changes too. Like building to 3 million is different than building from 3 to 10.
Right.
Right. So it's like, what does that look like for you? Are you in the 0 to 3 million or 3 million plus growth right now?
We're still at 0 to 3. We're looking to grow beyond that already. That's why I'm actually here, and we're pushing more on our phone services. Now, we've kind of digressed a lot on I have myself, on the IT portion, the cabling. Now I have a team that handles that. I just oversee it, QA it as well, you know, make sure everything is good, but it's pretty much become a self-sustaining machine.
Well, and Heather, it's different. You have to take a different approach to business in the growth stage at some point. Like in that 3 million is what people say. It's probably different for everybody, but in that range, the structure of the organization needs to be different. There's different strategies. What can he expect in that 3 million range?
Well, that's the thing. I think it's one thing to go from 0 to 1 or 3. They say the first million is the hardest, right?
It's true. After that, it becomes easier. Yeah.
After that, the 1 to 10 is your next milestone, but it's a lot easier to go from 1 to 10 than it is to go from 0 to 1. But I think it's really just about looking forward and at the strategy. So my first question is like, if you're looking to grow up past the 3 million, you've already identified that IT services are probably not what's going to get you there. And I heard phones, but like, who are those ideal clients? Are you still going for one-off individual business owners, or are you gunning for some of the bigger white whale contracts like an entire hospital system?
Yeah.
That would be my question, is how are you going to make work smarter, not harder? Because the higher you go in those revenue streams, you do have to be more strategic about bringing in that and then handling it as well. So what's the plan there?
Well, we've had, like, I have a letter of recommendation for one clinic that we've had about 130 phones. Just I know how to manage that, so I can pretty much go off higher than that. So that's pretty much what we're trying to grow. And we are in negotiations with some people in taking over phone lines for a major corporation. We do have the endorsements of the experience that we have. And, it is proven. It's not a concept anymore. So it's something that we are definitely looking at, because I'm wanting to have it more self-sustaining, because that's where it's at, the automation. Cabling, we will always be doing that, because even though AI can probably start doing coding and all, and it will knock a lot of coders out of work, you'll still always need human ingenuity work and a person's eye to kind of work on that. So we know, I definitely look at all the news, all the technology advancements, and I just think, how can we overcome this? What is coming?
Have you looked in your business? I know we're talking about gross sales and growth of revenue, but have you looked at the differentiation between one-off jobs, big revenue jobs, and recurring revenue?
I always shoot for recurring revenue. I'm not much of a one off job. That's the one thing I do. If it's something that's going to be an investment, so that's why the phones, we do it. It's already recurring. So.
See, Mark, that only took me 20 years to figure out also.
Yeah, I'm telling you that. I love that model. I was just talking about that with my wife this morning. It's like, I don't understand why somebody get into a chasing, like massage therapists, for example, just in the main service that they do, requires them to physically do it themselves, because that's where unless they get other massage therapists or whatever. But if they don't leverage that way, it's always you chasing that service, and there's no recurring revenue. There can be leveraged revenue, but not recurring revenue, unless you get them on supplements or something, which what chiropractors do all the time.
I don't know. Massage Envy does a good job of recurring revenue, because they
Right.
just pull that $70 a month and you get a credit for a massage. And then you're someone like me who never has time to stop for an hour and have a massage. And then you rack up a bunch of credits.
Well, that's good for Massage Envy, the people who own the company.
Yeah.
But the massage therapists who work for themselves. But even that recurring revenue requires you to actually do the thing. It's completely different than it's just the phone service, and you're just,
Oh, right. You're talking about like passive income recurring revenue.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because you establish a system. But for example, in our business, we have to have one-offs. So people come to us, they want a website. So we have a one-off price for the website. But to do ongoing search engine optimization so people can find you for keywords, we charge a recurring revenue, and that's a monthly charge. But we do have to do some work behind that. But
you can leverage that work.
but you can leverage that work, but also our company, let's say if somebody was looking to acquire us for $1.3 billion, which I would sell for, they're going to look more at our recurring revenue than how much gross revenue we did if they want to buy us.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I think recurring and horizontal revenue are two very different things. Your recurring revenue probably takes some maintenance. You gotta keep doing it. But horizontal, you sleep. That's like rents and stuff like that comes in whether you do anything or not.
Mailbox money. As
Mailbox
they say.
money is the horizontal income.
Yeah. So if anybody would like to mail us money to the Let's Talk Business
P.O.
podcast.
Box. P.O. Box Howie and Estelle.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, so it's Hispanic Heritage Month. So What are your thoughts on entrepreneurship as a path to really financial freedom and success for Latinos?
Well, as a Latino, we take a lot of pride in that. We always have this pride in my family where my grandfather heard the call, and when Pearl Harbor was attacked, he went, fought in the Pacific Theater, came back as an American, and my other half of the family was with the civil rights. We do have a lot of pictures, so I feel that all of that work is what brought me to be an entrepreneur, and all of their sacrifices did that. So I always know that we have a really proud heritage, really strong people behind us in our blood to give us a different way of getting Latinos out there by becoming small business owners, and getting a name out there. So as a Hispanic, it's always a big pride time for us during this month. I'm here because of the sacrifices that everybody did. So with small business ownership, it's just a path to freedom. That's giving all areas at the best. When you become a business owner, you get the freedom. So,
What do you think, Howie?
My grandparents, all four of them, went from Eastern Europe to Mexico. My dad was born in Mexico. My mom was born in Laredo. I grew up in Laredo. Spanish was our first language. And the path to where I am today was paved by my grandfather opening up a store in Mexico. And then eventually the opportunities were bigger on the U.S. side. He came to Laredo, opened up a store. All five of his kids and children-in-laws all worked in the family business. They all raised 16 of my grandparents' grandchildren based on the retail business that my grandfather had originally started. And it's why I have entrepreneurship in my blood.
Heather?
Oh, I'm Caucasian.
Yeah. Let's skip the white people in the room. No, but I mean, you've done projects for the Chambers of Commerce and Hispanic Chamber and all that stuff. I mean, do you see a distinction between, the maybe the pride or the path to success that people?
I definitely see like it's paved in family for the most part. When I work with Latinx is the technically correct.
Yeah,
word
we
now?
don't know what the
Okay.
correct term is. Latinos,
I'm trying to be as
Hispanics,
PC as I
Latinx,
can.
Mexicanos.
But no, those
La
people
raza.
I have met, which obviously there are quite a few of them. Yeah, it's family and heritage. So generally they're going to have family members involved in their business and not in like a placeholder. Like, oh, you're just here because
They
you're
all work in
family.
the
They
business.
are
They all help,
working
yeah.
in the family. They are taking big chunks of the business and running it themselves. And then they stick to traditions. So when they're in the chamber, they participate in the chamber and add value in keeping traditions alive. So I think it's fantastic.
So my kids must be Anglo because they don't work. They don't help me at all.
That's the Caucasian side.
I'm a huge fan of entrepreneurship. I think that it's, for the right personality type, the risk taker, but we can't have blinders on while we're doing it. We have got to be open to constructive feedback, constructive criticism, to that growth. And entrepreneurship is a team sport. As I have a great team that works with me, I can't imagine doing everything by myself and keeping my screws tight. It's just because it's a lot, and I know you've been through all that yourself. So, but yeah, I think entrepreneurship is great for the right personality type. All right. So if folks want to get in touch with you, Joe, how do they do that?
They can reach us at 210-907-7088. And they can go to our website, www.icontechstx.com. And they can search us on Facebook, LinkedIn. We are also in Corpus Christi and in the Rio Grande Valley. We have our own data centers. And you can definitely do hosting. Bring all of your stuff in and so forth, and we're always available. There's always somebody there to answer the phone. We definitely make sure. And human.
Human being.
I love that.
Yeah.
Of course, it's getting
That's a
harder
big
and
one.
harder to tell these days, right?
Right.
Yeah.
AI is pretty
Exactly.
slick. And combining AI with folks even in different countries that have an accent, they can take the accent out now too. This is a whole thing I'm learning about.
Right.
So, all right, Joe. Well, thanks for coming in. I appreciate it. Great talk. As we wrap up the show, a quick reminder to check out our latest podcast and catch video version of the show anytime by visiting our website at satalkradio.com. That's going to be it for this one. Don't forget the Mega Mixer coming up on October 3rd. Look forward to seeing you guys there. Have a great week. We'll see you on the next one. Thanks, everybody.